Okay, thank you so much, Christina. So for those of you who don't know, this is Christina Gao. She's a fellow Samoan. She works for the SPTO. So thank you, Christina, for logging in from Suva, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg and Talofa, and good morning, everyone. So I'm just hoping that you can hear me all right on that end before I start. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so I'll start off the presentation on case studies this morning, and then my colleague Mosese will take you through the best and sort of like poor practices. Okay, so first off, I think for the benefit of all of you who are in the room, I know that the SPTO team and also the Samoa Tourism Authority team are very familiar with SPTO, but just wanted to introduce our organization again for the sake of our other colleagues from the private sector, as well as Ministries of Environment, as well as MWTI and others who are in the room today. So first off, SPTO stands for the Pacific Tourism Organization. We're based in Suva. We have 20 Pacific Island member countries. And we work across different partnerships. We also have private sector members. Most of them are from Fiji. But we do have airlines, accommodation, properties, tour operators, consultants, and others who are members of SPTO as private sector. Our three key priorities as an organization falls within the area of marketing, research and statistics, and sustainable tourism planning and development. So we are presenting on behalf of the Sustainable Tourism Program at SPTO. We are a member of the prop agencies, and you can see here on the map where our members are. And we also work very closely with the UNWTO, which is the United Nations World Tourism Organization, as our main international partner, but also the PATA, or the Pacific Asia Travel Association. So what's very relevant for the training for this week is the focus of SPTO on how we see recovery in the tourism sector, particularly when we are looking at sustainable tourism and what it means for the Pacific Islands. So we've highlighted here what our goals and priorities are for the region. And the pandemic has really given everyone globally the opportunity to relook at tourism in a different way. And so last year, we started off the year engaging again with our members as well as partners who are working across different spectrums, the private sector, civil society, as well as governments, but also development partners and international organizations who are contributing to the development of tourism in the Pacific. And so what we came up with at the end was the Pacific Sustainable Tourism Policy Framework. This is the first type of regional framework that sort of like really focuses or hones in on the importance of sustainable tourism and what does it mean for the Pacific Island countries. So I've highlighted here that the four goals are prosperous economies. Of course, tourism is an economic sector, and we want to see that both supported through tourism and ensuring that it becomes a resilient sector to support our economies. Two, we're also looking at advancing the role of tourism in supporting the empowerment and well-being of our communities, not only where tourism developments are located, but across our islands and countries. The other key focus of regional tourism at the moment is really re-looking at the importance of our cultures and how we can integrate and have tourism amplify the celebration and promotion of our cultures and heritage across the region. And lastly, and this is the goal that is very relevant and directly relevant to the training this week, is on healthy islands and oceans. And this is where we really want to focus on having tourism as that sector that will look at accelerating climate action, but also protect and support the conservation of our ecosystems and resilience across countries. Now, supporting the goals, we have, as a region, identified 9 priorities, and these are listed here. I won't go into details, but we do have a copy of the framework available online. We can share the link with you at the end of this presentation, but it really speaks to the importance of looking at tourism, not just as an economic sector, but as a sector that contributes to bringing in our societies and communities together, whilst also ensuring that our islands and ecosystems and ocean ecosystems are protected for future generations. So specifically on goal 4, we are focusing on a range of priorities and outcomes. They are listed here, but very important is ensuring that there is transition to a low emission economy through tourism. So reducing our carbon footprint is very key in the future, now and into the future, but also the importance of involving our visitors, not just communities and us who are present in the destinations, but also engaging our visitors on awareness and, in conserving and protecting our environment. So a lot of work needs to be happening in that space, but also looking at preparing our tourism businesses to embed sustainability practices in their daily operations. And so that is very key to the way we look at recovery in the tourism sector. So some of the case studies that will now be discussed by Mosese are not new to you. It's not new to the Pacific. It's not in any way presented to highlight how other countries have really gone the wrong way. But really the importance of us learning about the case studies today is, looking at the value of learning from the mistakes of others and how we in Samoa can avoid these kinds of mistakes, but also celebrating the really good practices that some of our countries have embarked on. I'm sure Rob and the team from Samoa Tourism Authority also have cases of Samoa, so we won't touch on Samoa, but if needed, we will provide some case studies from Samoa as well. So that's it for me today, but I just also wanted to thank Samoa Tourism Authority for their continuous support to the sustainability program of SPTO. Samoa is the chair of our board subcommittee for sustainable tourism, so you have an important voice in ensuring that how we promote sustainability in the tourism sector across the Pacific is done in the right way. And so without further ado, I'd now like to hand it over to Mosese. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tina. Greg and participants. So as Tina has already alluded, that the objective of this presentation not to highlight bad practices, but the importance of planning and abiding with the standards and regulations that have been set forth by the Environment Ministry. So our first case is the free soul case in Malolo. Back in 2018, Free Soul case, a Chinese link company, began work in Malolo, a 5-kilometer long tourist, about 20 kilometers west of the main island of Fiji. Free Soul was accused of causing massive environmental degradation, which resulted in dredging of a reef. So the dredging destroyed pristine mangrove environment, affecting coral ecosystem and affecting the biological diversity of mangrove-reliant communities and corals. Free Soul, before works was implemented, Free Soul hired a EIA consultant to do a pre-assessment survey of the area. approval was given to the report was given to the Ministry of Environment. So before written approval from the ministry was given, Freesol actually started with the works. Freesol started works without written approval permits from the Ministry of Environment. So all these works were later classified under the Ministry of Environment as a direct action, or it affects the environment and was not part of the plan set forth by the environment. And part of the environmental impacts of such project is a loss of biological diversity in the marine ecosystem, mangroves reliant organisms, high concentration of hydraulic oils, fuels, sewer and solid waste. Social impacts, loss of traditional fishing grounds due to waste. Locals will now have to travel further out to fish, and this affects the livelihood. And lastly, the degree of impact can be viewed as a loss of customary lands, which are some cultural significance. The actions that were taken by the government back then was a court case and a stop work notice, which was issued by the Department of Environment to stop all the works of the digging and cutting into the trench. I will now play a video that will show the degree of impacts. Greg and Ivan, can you hear the video?
Sorry, it's not playing.
It's paused at the moment. It was playing and it was just a bit choppy with the video. Sound's not coming in now. Maybe Masasa, if you could talk over the video, if you know what's being shown, that would be good. It's kind of self-explanatory, but it would help.
Hi, Moses, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, sorry, the video is very choppy. We can't really see what's going on.
Can you send him the link?
Yes, please, if you can send the link.
Ivan, can I send you the link?
Yes, please.
And then move on. Greg, is it okay if we then move on to the next, to the rest of the case study, and when Ivan is ready, we can replay
Yep, that'll be great. That's a good idea. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you, Ivan. Moving on to the next case is Sheraton Cook Islands.
Rarotonga.
Yeah, Sheraton, Rarotonga and Cook Islands. So this case study will focus on Sheraton Hotel Cook Islands. Planning for the resort began in 1987 when the Cook Islands government was approached by an Italian construction company. The project financer was an Italian bank, they did not recruit locals for the construction, but brought in Italian workmen. This project highlighted environmental consequences of misguided development and debt. This case highlights the importance of pre-site assessments in the area of hydrology test and environmental impact assessment. The environmental impacts that were caused by the construction of Sheraton in Rarotonga is pollution of waterways, solid waste and runoffs were not addressed. As a result, increase of siltation and dead corals. Such construction projects will require a CEMP, which is a construction environmental management plan, that will guide each construction phase, making sure to mitigate associated environmental impacts. So moving on to the social impact opportunities to promote local jobs. In this case, the Thailand's were brought in rather than employing locals for the constructions. Second is loss of customary land. Due to the impacts induced by the project, locals will have to travel further out to catch meals. And lastly, politics have a substantial influence over environmental change. These are some of the photos that were captured from the project.
So I take it the hotel never was completed, or it just failed?
It completely failed. There were efforts to revive, bring in construction company to try and get the project back online, but all efforts prove futile. Any questions? We're moving on to.
Did you have a video for Sheraton? You can share the link to be sent to Ivan whilst we go to the next one.
Yeah. The third case study is Muri Lagoon in Cook Islands. So the case with Muri Lagoon, the hotels that were situated along Muri Lagoon had improper septic tanks. So the designs were not exactly compact enough to minimize leakage. And the environmental impacts from sewer outfall is nutrients from septic tanks entering the shallow groundwater and flowing into the sensitive Muri Lagoon are causing algae problems. Increase in runoffs. Nutrients are a direct result of increasing reliant communities and tourism operators. Deep groundwater, basalt rock associated with wastewater systems. The second slide is how nutrients got into the lagoon. So the first is in surface streams or runoffs. Second is in shallow water ground. So seawater actually seeps into the groundwater system, and groundwater system, when it rains, the water pushes from mainland into the sea. And lastly, in the basement basalt volcanic rock. On best practices, decommissioning of wastewater systems will help reduce the amount of nutrients. So the plan back then was to decommission all septic tanks and have a communal wastewater treatment plants. Second is to dredge a channel to increase current flow into the Muri. But the last option that was taken back then was to allow natural selection to take place, which was the weather. The weather will eventually take away the algae, and also fish will feed on the accumulated algae. Moving on to the fourth case is the the artificial reef of Mangai Resort, Gamea, Fiji. Mangai Beach Resort is situated on a 99-year tourism lease of the 5 acres Wainingamai site located on the southwestern tip of Gamea Island, northern eastern Fiji. Gamea is a land of tropical mountains, rainforest, white sandy beaches, and a true Fijian villages. It has life and culture and traditional island atmosphere. Mangai is a beautiful Gamea beach enclosed in 2 rocky points and virgin jungle mountains. The proposal that affected this part of the reef was a 40-meter long breakwater reef to be constructed on the foreshore part of the reef flat, directly in front of the main building at the resort. The structure is composed of a soft rock geocontainers filled with local sand. Soft rock geocontainer material is non-woven fiber that is proven very robust in the surf zone and is environmentally inert. The soft rock will be used, which is a tough layer for vandal resistant, and will allow the colonization of marine organizations. For those that are not familiar with soft rock geocontainers, these are type of construction that involve sandbagging. So sandbagging with geotextile. So per bag will weigh around 1 ton. And they are arranged in such a way that will allow the formation of waves to promote surface. So there is a structure. During low tide, it is an eyesore. And the environmental impacts and risk, the development was, firstly, it was an experimental, pointing out that the impacts would not be known. Reef damage was irreversible and carried high risk of affecting fish and marine life, on which many people living in the area depend on. Larger surface breaks could accelerate coastal erosions, and there was no obvious economic benefits or royalties for the villages. Just to add on to the Mangai Resort, they wanted to have the similar scenario of the Tavarua famous surfing spot up in the Malolos. In September 29, 2012, the High Chiefs of Gamea village wrote to the Honorable Prime Minister to express their grave concerns and reservations over the proposed development sites within the surrounding reefs of Taveuni and Gamea. The letter said the project would involve cutting, shaving, or modifying coral reefs with heavy equipment to create bigger surfable wave for tourists. These reefs have provided food and protection for our ancestors, the current generation, and with your support. So this project was instructed by the Honorable Prime Minister. A stop work notice was instructed by the Honorable Prime Minister due to the concerns raised by the High Chiefs. Last project is Naui Island. Naui Island is off the coast of Sausavu, opposite Sausavu town, and in the province of the Konrave, the second largest island of Fiji. The Naui Island was earmarked as a green tourism hotspot, where it will allow yachts to dock, and the resort has taken greater strides and initiative to promote itself as one of the first intergovernmental green marinas in the world. It will focus on renewable energy, sustainable treatment systems, innovative, sustainable and inorganic and organic building materials. This is the utilization of bamboos. So during the project, the investors wanted to bring in experts of bamboos from Asia to import these products and be used for this project. And lastly, promote the zero single use of plastic on the marina. So the picture on the left, that is what actually involved in the construction. So the activities was the removal of 10 hectares of mangroves. The impacts, it affected the tides and water bodies during high rain, water storage, sorry, and affecting marine organisms that are reliant on mangrove ecosystem for protection and food source. Due to the project also involved dredging of the seafloor, and direct impacts of those is kills stingrays and bottom feeders marine organisms. So those are the photos from during the construction of Nawi Island. So as you can see on the left, dredging of the seafloor, and on the right, the platform which they use to mount all these heavy-duty excavators. On the left, from a beautiful, pristine Nawi Island mangroves, removal of 10 hectares, and that is what you have. And on the right is a continuous dredging of the place. So the two photos will give you an idea of the magnitude of such construction can have on an environment in terms of protection and the role that each can play in terms of climate change. So on the left is Nawi Island before, and on the right is during construction phase. So Nawi Island also part of the EIA that was prepared and approved was mitigation works. The developers of Nawi Island South Savo understand the importance of development. A strong commitment is the hiring of the first marine biologist. So this project was the first of its size to actually employ a marine biologist on site and be part of the construction phase to monitor water levels and champion the activities on mangrove reforestation and coral restoration. The project not only involved the workers, but it actually involved the schools, primary schools, and other businesses. So from the 10 hectares of mangroves that were removed, so far they have planted over 20,000 mangroves as mitigation for the works that they have done. So, just to complete my presentation, the importance of to understand the degree of each construction, the importance is whatever impacts that will arise from the project, it won't only affect the resort or proposed site, but it will affect the neighboring communities or tourism-reliant communities. And with that, Ivan, could you please play the video?